We are allowed to subtweet and like negative tweets when it's somebody that we don't like. Hello? Welcome to Twitter. Hey there. Before I say anything, I just want to let you know that this video is sponsored by SKILLSHARE. My audience loves SKILLSHARE. You know it's hard to do sometimes? It's hard to remember to make 2 intros, 2 outros, and then like some sort of segue back into the topic we were talking about before. So how's about we do a 5-minute recap of part 1 and I tell you about SKILLSHARE and then just jump right into part 2. Cool. I should give a content warning. You know that we're going to be talking about essay, but there were some things even in that video, that call, that really royally upset me because a couple of those things had to do with me. We've wondered about a lot of things, and every single step of the way, when the audience comes to some sort of conclusion that is logical, Gabbie shuts that down. At the end of the day, she's got a mortgage to pay and she's got music videos to pay for.
My income has been cut to 1/3 and I have a mortgage to pay. I have to pay for my album and my music video release.
Nobody needs to pay for music and music videos. That's a luxury.
Oh no, I need to. I need that. And I earn that and I deserve that. So yeah.
Poses in front of the mirror in her underwear to let you know that she could both of your parents and the one you love the most in the world, but also in another breath says that she had to attempt to have sex with her best friends or ex-best friend, ex-boyfriend, because she needed that for her self-esteem.
I just wanted to feel something good about myself and that like I had some type of my power back.
The video that sabotaged Broken Girls was a Q&A in which Jessi Smiles mentions Gabbie Hanna in the thumbnail. Not in the title, in the thumbnail. There's always some sort of so-and-so is sabotaging my release of whatever sort, when I genuinely don't believe that these people keep track of when these release dates are.
And I would never and have never defended him.
Stop fucking lying.
And we'll see as the story unfolds how it starts to change, how these details change here and there. You catch Gabbie correcting herself.
All the responses are, you know, this girl is a rape apologist and she defended, she left her best friend for her best friend's rapist.
Spoiler alert, Gabbie Hanna did defend Curtis Lepore.
Jessi was looking for any moment that she possibly could so that she could get emotional on the call.
She so needs us to treat her with kid gloves because she's either going through something, she seems like she's going through something, she had gone through something, because she has ADHD, because she's gone through this, because she's gone through that, because she's been shadow banned, because her music videos aren't getting views, or whatever. Like, feel bad for Gabbie Hanna. Jessi doesn't need to manipulate people into feeling bad for her, liking her, or siding with her. She's got the public support. Really kind of the importance of being public versus private with Gabbie. Gabbie Hanna cares so much about what's public that she will say hurtful shit, and if she doesn't say your name, then you don't have the right to be offended.
Jessi, what are you talking about? You did this.
It's no one's business.
But Trish, I never made it public.
And I'm never going to publicly defend Curtis Lepore. How about don't ever defend Curtis Lepore? All this stuff that she does to get at people, to hurt people, to make people cry, to bring people to their knees.
She definitely did make me cry once.
That's when Gabbie says, I think that we should just deal with each other through our lawyers. We can't talk directly with each other. And immediately after that says, but dude, Jen raped a little girl though. That's dark. And it certainly didn't need to be taken to Jessi in such a way that was just meant to get at her, just meant to hurt her, just meant to upset her, because you know, Gabbie, you know that you knew it was not true. I don't think that Gabbie understands that SA is a bad thing to any behavior that really minimizes our word in any sense, to include making it out to be not that big of a deal.
Every single person was saying that you lied. If you truly didn't want me to use the clips, if you truly didn't want me to talk about your trauma, then you should have just fucking left me alone.
This happens way too many times in her hometown. This happens with thousands of women filing false reports that her police department in her hometown is overrun. Gabbie says things that minimize the severity of Jessi's essay, but by proxy, essay in general. I'm going to call her an R-word apologist because that is demonstrably true. To accuse Jen Dent of doing this to anybody, much less a child, and in the way that she did it, was making a mockery of that topic, of potentially the most serious topic for anyone ever. But women supporting women, Gabbie.
You're a fucking monster. You're a bitch.
Guess what? Jessi's a woman, Gabbie. But before I go on, like I said, this video is sponsored by SKILLSHARE, which is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people. You can explore new skills, develop existing interests, and get lost in creativity. Currently, my favorite course is YouTube Success Script, Shoot, and Edit by Marquez Brownlee, who's a self-described YouTuber, podcaster, and tech head. In particular, I love Marquez's focus on realism, making the content feel more true to life. And he gives us some pointers on how to grow a YouTube channel. And it's not the same run-of-the-mill, here are your analytics, obviously, thanks to those other tutorials. But he actually teaches us different ways of analyzing the data so that we can make more content that is successful. Perhaps it's the fellow nerd in me, but I like this dude. The people who teach these courses are just so relatable. You don't feel like you are in any sort of like classroom setting. I've noticed that a good number of people in my audience are either starting their own YouTube channels or thinking about it. And a lot of you guys are really impressively good at it, by the way. I decided to give this course a whirl and see if I wanted to use it for myself and or recommend it to you. Whether you're a dabbler or a pro, a hobbyist or a master, you're creative. Discover what you can make with classes for every skill level. When you join, you can try one of SKILLSHARE's live classes, watching and working along with other members. Enter a community of encouragement, communication, and inspiration. The first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link in the description will get a 1-month free trial of SKILLSHARE so you can start exploring your creativity today. Open another tab while I'm speaking to you right now. It is a great way to show me that you want to support me by supporting SKILLSHARE, and you're getting really rich, free education out of it. And I just want to say thank you to SKILLSHARE for offering this to my subscribers. Thanks, SKILLSHARE. Jessi goes on to talk about tweets, subtweets, tweet likes, all of that. We've heard Gabbie talk so much about so-and-so was liking tweets about this. Alex James, I know that you were liking tweets about me doing this back in the day. And Oscar Wilde, you liked a tweet made by my abusers or whatever she said. And Jessi, you were liking tweets about this and that. You tweeted about me being a shitty person, meaning subtweeted. You were also making tweets that implied this and that about me. And then Jessi finally just says, Gabbie, I don't like you. And that's all she wrote. That's all we needed. Gabbie, people are allowed to like whatever the fuck tweets they want. If the tweet itself is harassment, is a violation of Twitter's terms of service, then report the tweet. And okay, let's go ahead and take a moment to talk about liking tweets. Hey Stans, this one's for you. Gabbie's whole thing has always been, you like to tweet. Jessi points it out. She did it to Brandon Calvillo when he was doing his like a conversation with project that he did on his YouTube channel. She cares so much about this shit. And you know that her fans go hard for Gabbie Hanna. So if you like something that is in any way negative about Gabbie Hanna, you're a shit person according to these stans. However, here recently, one of Gabbie's, again, one of her biggest fans, one of her most well-known fans, liked a tweet that was racist in nature, a tweet in which the original poster made some sort of sarcastic joke on the 1-year anniversary of the death of George Floyd. This person made some sort of tweet about like, congratulations on 1 year sober and a whole year without committing a crime, George Floyd. How fucked up is a tweet like that, right? The most active Gabbie fan, arguably, on Twitter, liked this tweet and was called out on it, and now that person and all of their friends are continuing to say, oh my God, Stan A only did that because they didn't know how to bookmark a tweet and they wanted to bookmark this tweet in order to show their racist family. Okay, let's pretend that that's true. Then you need to go back and retroactively give the benefit of the doubt to every single person that you and Gabbie have pointed out has liked a tweet because you don't know whether or not they were simply bookmarking it, perhaps to defend Gabbie. You never know, right? Because if I'm not allowed to point out to you that it's fucked up of you to like a tweet that's racist like that, then you and Gabbie and none of you guys have any right to say it's fucked up for anyone else to like any tweet of any sort. So shut up about liking tweets, at least when we're talking about like people who are not friends. Just like Jessi said, I don't like you, Gabbie. God, we are allowed to subtweet and like negative tweets when it's somebody that we don't like. Hello? Welcome to Twitter. God. Jessi showed clips of the things that Gabbie was saying to Rachel Oates, the really terrible things she was saying to Rachel Oates about why she doesn't. I want to take a moment for this. This is not really what Jessi's video was about, but it deserves its moment. Gabbie, I don't remember the wording verbatim, and so therefore Gabbie's going to throw this out entirely, because if it's not verbatim, then she didn't do it. But she told Rachel Oates, or she said of Rachel Oates, that Rachel has not proved to be accomplished in art in any way, and has not proved to be intelligent to understand art.
Because she has no accomplishments in art or has proven to me that she's actually intellectual enough to understand art. I accept my criticism from talented, smart people.
Gabbie, honey, you're not as intelligent as you think you are. You're really not. And to the people offended by the fact that I just said that, sorry to you, but I'm not sorry to Gabbie Hanna, because she had the nerve to say to somebody that I very much enjoy, who I think is extremely intelligent, by the way, that she's just not intelligent enough to understand this art that Gabbie Hanna is shit at. And if being good or understanding art, poetry, music, whatever, is some sort of reflection of intelligence, then Gabbie, your intelligence is way down there. I'm sorry, but like, you talk so much about objectively, my art is this. Objectively, my music is good. Art is subjective. We know that. But if we're going to talk about technique, and what actual professionals and people who know about this stuff are saying, they are saying that your art is mediocre at best. So shut it down when talking about other people's intelligence, because that is not your area of expertise. It's not. Okay, I'm going to get into all the Richy stuff, and wow, this is convoluted because it ties in so many different stories. And finally, we have a narrative, because so many of this goes back to Jessi's ex, Richy, who, if I'm not mistaken, is somebody that Gabbie connected with on a dating app. And I think if I'm trying to remember that story time, because I did watch it, the one in which she calls Jessi, there's an astronomical difference between having psycho bitch moments and being a psycho bitch.
Hey guys, I know you like to say that women are having a mental breakdown and blame any type of expression of emotions or defending themselves as being mentally incompetent and clearly going through something.
And also saying of Jessi, oh, you're psychotic.
And then whenever you finally stand up for yourself, they say you're having a breakdown.
Remember that story time in which Jessi was just this crazy, insecure girlfriend because she didn't like Gabbie being left alone with this boyfriend and passing a bottle of alcohol to each other, when in fact, now we know that Gabbie has been very inappropriate with that very boyfriend or ex-boyfriend at this point. That when this friendship ended, Gabbie attempted to have sex with this man. And I am not going to feel bad for saying wanted to have sex with this person. Because if you so badly need for that to be true that you could, then in some way or another, you want that. In some realm, you want that to happen. Even if it's in some sort of hypothetical world, you want for you and Richy to be having sex so that you can feel good about yourself. Again, World's biggest pick-me girl ever. And it's so gross to me because I think that Gabbie not only needs to know that she could fuck anyone in the world, but specifically, it seems to mean more to her when it's somebody, a man who has chosen one of her friends. I think that Gabbie actually really looks up to, in a very jealous way, looks up to people like Trisha and Jessi. In fact, I want to make a video about this. I think that Gabbie is obsessed with these people and is trying so hard to emulate their lives and has been doing this for quite some time. But I think that when it comes to somebody that perhaps she could have had a chance with at some point, but especially because Jessi really had a chance with that person, Jessi had that person, now Gabbie needs to know that she too could have that person so that she can have a semblance of feeling like she's as good as Jessi smiles. This is a super quick reminder to like this video and subscribe to my channel if that's something you want to do. If that's not something you want to do, just don't. I'll shut up and start talking now. And the way she said on that 3-hour call, many of you heard the part where she said something along the lines of, and she was crying, Gabbie was crying and telling Jessi that, Jessi reminded us that Gabbie has told us several times, if I wanted to, I could have. But she also was crying and saying that she didn't want to have sex with Richy. She needed that information for her self-esteem.
And he was like, literally, she's doing the same thing to both of us. And then I said to him, maybe we should just hook up. And he said, yeah, we definitely should. How about tonight? And I was like, haha, no. And then he hit me up 2 more times to have sex and I never did. So I'm so tired of having the same conversations. And that's another reason why I felt like this is like my final only thing I can do is how many times can you and I just be cool and talk it out and be fine before you do this again? Tried to have sex with me 3 separate times and each time I said no. Because if I wanted to, I would have when he asked me 3 times to have sex.
Oh, there it is. There it is. The favorite sentence you say in the email.
Yeah.
Anyway,
if I wanted to have sex with I would. So stop telling people that I tried to fuck your boyfriend when I didn't. If I wanted to fuck him in the 3 times that he texted me and wanted to have sex with me, I would have had sex with him.
Can I continue what I was saying?
Why do you keep doing this to me and expecting me not to respond? You're saying publicly that I tried to fuck your boyfriend. Like, I've never done this to you and you're wondering why I'm cracking. Because I've tried to ignore this for years when you're publicly saying I'm trying to fuck your boyfriend. You think it's not hard for me to not want to hop in and say, well, this is why I did that. And no, I didn't try to fuck him. I just wanted to feel something good about myself and that like I had some type of my power back. It's been so hard. And I just can't imagine thinking that your friend or your ex-friend owes it to you to be understanding of that. No, there are certain friend codes that you don't break even when somebody is your ex-friend. And Gabbie doesn't understand that. Anything's on the table if Gabbie doesn't like you. But you can't so much as like a tweet that's not in her favor if you don't like her. Okay. All right, Gabbie. And the fact that she took it a step further. She asked Richy if he would do a video with her in which they expose Jessi smiles. There is so much behavior that is just between Gabbie and this ex of Jessi's that is in and of itself enough to be its own huge drama. All this drama that's going on right now could just be about Gabbie's interactions with Jessi's ex-boyfriend because it's that inflammatory and it's that convoluted, it's that complex, it's that multifaceted. It involves that many transgressions on the part of Gabbie Hanna. So let's get to one of the most important points in either story, whether you're looking at Jessi's or Gabbie's. And I'm so glad that Jessi finally talked about this because when I talked to Gabbie Hanna for the first time, I believe that I told you guys in a video that as soon as I got on a call with Gabbie Hanna, she started trauma dumping on me, that she started talking about things that had nothing to do with me. And I remember one of those things being that Jessi is such a narcissistic abuser that she went so far as to tell Gabbie that she wanted to find her in a hallway and knock her teeth out or something like that. I was just like, it was a weird, like, find her and knock her teeth out, something like that. And I was just like, huh, what?
is this girl talking about? It sounded bad. And then I heard the story from Jessi later that like, hey, Gabbie keeps alluding to this like threat of physical violence, and I'm not proud of it. And if I'm saying this, I've checked with Jessi to say that it's cool that I mentioned this. But Jessi did mention to me that she was embarrassed by what she said to Gabbie in that situation where she threatened her with physical violence. She was embarrassed by the fact that she said that. When the fact of the matter is, not saying it's okay. It's not okay. It's not okay to tell somebody you want to punch them in the face. It's not okay. Like, I have to say that. And I do believe that. At the same time, I just don't think the way it was said was as big a deal as Gabbie wants to make it out to be. Perhaps that's my bias speaking. But I think that the rest of the internet is biased with me. And I don't think anybody was all that fazed to hear that Jessi said, if you try to find me, you'll find me and I'm going to punch you in the face. And there are so many things about that story that just don't add up on Gabbie's side, because Gabbie tries to paint this picture as if Jessi out of nowhere threatened to punch her in the face, and she acts so afraid of Jessi, and Jessi saying that, and then in the same breath, Gabbie tells us about how she was like raised in the hood and is posting TikToks where she's like boxing the screen and trying to act like some big badass. And then she cowers. I said she cowers because that's how she sounded with me when she was telling me the story about how she was threatened with physical violence. And she made it sound as though she and Jessi were cool, almost as if they were friends. And then out of nowhere, Jessi said, I'm going to punch you in the face, whatever. The thing with Gabbie's story is that she says, we had plans to get food and drinks. Then out of nowhere, you unblocked me to say that if I try to find you, I'm going to find you and you're going to punch me in the face, whatever. Where that story doesn't add up, not that it's untrue, but there's something glaring there, is that you said in that text from Jessi, she said, I am unblocking you because you did not have plans to hang out with Jessi at VidCon. This much is evident. Perhaps you thought that you could tell that story and that detail would just fly under the radar, and it might have for a lot of people, but thank God Jessi gave us context for it. Between whatever plans of food and drinks and this issue at VidCon, I think is where Jessi said it happened. At some point, you tried to convince Jessi's ex-boyfriend to do an expose video with you, and not just one of Jessi's ex-boyfriends, the one that you attempted to have sex with, the one that you made a story time about. And you can't act surprised that somebody doesn't like you and doesn't want to see you if they have to unblock your number in order to say something to you. And on one hand, you might argue that Gabbie didn't know that she was blocked, maybe. But if you guys were planning to have food and drinks and we heard the story, you were looking for Jessi. Jessi heard from at least 3 people that you were looking for her. Why didn't you just text her? You couldn't text Jessi because Jessi had you blocked. So don't pretend that you were so surprised that Jessi was annoyed by the fact that you were continually hunting her down at VidCon, asking everyone where she was. If Jessi wanted to see you, she wouldn't have had you blocked. If Jessi wanted to see you, then the first time you asked where she was, it would have gotten to her and she would have found you. Stop.
Get some help.
Yeah, that's the big thing. That's the big damning thing that I'm telling you guys now, that sure, Gabbie Hanna is going to come out with the rest of her series and there are going to be these episodes on Jessi Smiles, but I'm letting you know now, based on what I was told from Gabbie Hanna herself, the worst, the most egregious thing that Jessi Smiles had done to Gabbie Hanna was make that comment. So what else is there? Sorry to kill your buzz, but I mean, keep editing those chapters of your series, I guess, because the worst of Jessi's transgressions is out there and people didn't really give a fuck. I don't remember exactly what Jessi was talking about, but I did note that she said something along the lines of, "You pretend not to know because you think I don't know." That was something that Jessi said to Gabbie about some detail, and I believe she might have kind of said that generally about Gabbie, and I'm definitely saying that generally about Gabbie. Gabbie seems to try really hard to gauge what people know or what she thinks they know and keep it at that, and not own up to the things that she's done if it looks bad on her. And we see that by the way that she flashes false information on the screen in her videos. I think that might have happened at some point because Jessi did call it out and say it's a really irresponsible thing to do as a content creator, because not everybody can read on the screen during your video. Hey there, welcome to this insert time. So I think I came off a little bit confusing in trying to make this point where I kind of bled two examples together. One example being where Gabbie will kind of boldly and blatantly put either misinformation on the screen or some sort of screenshot that either does not support her argument at all, might disprove her argument altogether, but misleads the audience by looking like it is evidence to support her argument. And a good example would be the time she put her screenshots with quote unquote Alex James on the screen when in fact she was talking to a wrong number. And in this other example, which is what I think Jessi is saying in her video, is where Gabbie will correct herself if she has been wrong about something. She will put her corrections as text on the screen without actually vocalizing that. I noticed that a lot with her videos about Trisha Paytas, and this has happened again with the videos about Jessi when Gabbie has been wrong. So it gives off the impression that Gabbie wants us to have as little correct information that shows that Gabbie has been wrong in any capacity, and just in general feels dishonest. But we've talked about this already, how Gabbie posted a screenshot of her text messages with Alex James that were clearly to a wrong number. And I firmly believe that it's because Gabbie thought by telling her side of the story, her version of the story, that she was already planting in our minds what we should know. And so whatever she put on the screen didn't matter because we already knew what she wanted us to know. Is it just in my mind that those things were connected? I don't know. But either way, the points still stand, whether together or on their own. Also, why does this so look like Gabbie has deleted text between, I'm assuming this is her and Curtis Lepore? Like, is it just me? Or does this text exchange just seem really unnatural to be the only text exchange you have with somebody in your phone, unless you deleted texts, you know? Oh, and for those who can't read the screen, partially because that's the whole point I'm talking about, I can just read the text here. It looks like the other person says, "Would you want to be in a video with me and Wanpa?" Gabbie says, "When I'm leaving for tour." The other person says, "It was kind of last minute. When do you get back?" Gabbie says, "January." The other person says, "That's so tight. You're gonna have a blast. You're even." Aha, and there it is. Here, while Gabbie is talking about Curtis Lepore, she flashes text on the screen that says, "Before I started obsessively saving text, I used to delete threads from people who stressed me out. Case in point." Because it's the same thing when she says, "Oh, I remember this tweet. It was beware, beware, something, something, a broken-hearted woman." That's what this was about. It was just a Big Sean and Lil Wayne. That's funny, Big Lil. I hadn't thought of that. Lyric that was such a Vine meme at the time. She pretends not to know or remember that she was defending Curtis at that time because, according to Gabbie, she thinks that the proof is not out there that it happened. So if we don't know, and we can't know, if there's no proof out there, then we can't know, right? And so if we don't know, then she can pretend not to know. She doesn't have to own up to anything if the proof is not there. Gabbie's so hung up on proof, and she calls everything evidence, and that gets on my nerves too. Just wait until we talk about her forensic analysts. I said that and then I totally forgot to tell you guys about Gabbie's forensic analysts. We've heard her use this term a few times, and Surprise! Her forensic analysts are her patrons. And how do I know this? I'm not going to provide the screenshots just because they involve Discord messages and DMs, but if anyone wants to come for me, I can prove this. Around the time of my hate mob, Gabbie Hanna was in DMs with somebody that I knew talking about whether or not Gabbie had unfollowed this person on Twitter. Gabbie said that she'd checked with her forensic analysts and they said that she had not unfollowed anyone since some day prior to when they were talking about. And somebody else I knew, though I didn't know this until they told me this, and it's something that I told people that they shouldn't do, but these people are adults. Somebody else was in Gabbie Hanna's Discord, and at the exact same time that conversation was going on about Twitter follows, Gabbie was asking her patrons if she'd followed or unfollowed anyone by that name in recent days. This was also at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I don't remember if that was 3 o'clock my time or 3 o'clock Gabbie's time, but either way, Gabbie has forensic analysts on call that work after midnight, apparently. One thing she says to Jessi, they're talking about whether or not this is news to Jessi that Gabbie spoke to Curtis about the night that he R-worded her. And Gabbie says, this is not news. Jessi keeps acting like this is news. And then Gabbie tells us in her own video that she thought that she had told Jessi in her Notes app apology because she had it in her first draft. Whatever the story, whatever the reason was, she misremembered. And here's the thing is, we've heard this a couple of times from Gabbie recently is, I thought, I misremembered. Her telling Trisha Paytas in voice memos, oh, I was wrong about that detail. You were right about this thing and that thing. And we've heard a couple of times in recent videos, oh yeah, I was wrong about that part. Or flashed on the screen conveniently for the people who aren't watching, who cannot read the screen, or who just simply are not. Correcting yourself that way. It's just like, as Jessi said, irresponsible. But it's so ridiculous to me that Gabbie can just like casually just like forget things.
She's saying this is all part of a show and she's doing this for attention or something. And like, if that's the case and that's the route she wants to go, I'm not going to judge her for that. But she's calling me a liar and stuff. Here's a voice memos. The next day she sent these to me.
Oh, and I also wanted to quickly say the things that I was wrong about because since I couldn't sleep last night, this was all I was thinking about. I just was kind of checking for myself. Something I was wrong about was like, we definitely did not have Thanksgiving plans. Like I went back and looked at that and I definitely inflated that in my head where it was more just like, I think you were spending Thanksgiving with Sean's family. And I said, none of my friends were in town. You're like, oh my God, I wish I knew. I would have just like stayed home and we could have eaten together.
So that's when I knew I just wanted to distance myself from her. We weren't friends and I don't know what else to say. She was just trying to convince me we were, and I was just like, but we were. And then she's like, I saw it different, and I was like, okay.
On the call, I was like, Jessi, like this isn't news. I've told you this in 2015. This was public knowledge. I wrote it in the Notes app apology. And the reason I said that is because I believed I did.
Forget really important things, by the way, and really, really fight hard and stand by those things as if they really happened, which, by the way, is crazy making to people for you to pretend that something that didn't happen happened. And yet you call everybody else a gaslighter for not remembering something that you claim to remember.
I even told her, I was like, I'm going to be respectful of you and just not combat this anymore. And she was like, you're gaslighting me and that might be in the thing. And I was just like, I'm literally saying, I just want to respect you because I'm in your home.
And then people started laying into her because she was being really condescending and gaslighting me on camera and everybody saw it. And then she got triggered and made 2 videos calling me a liar again.
Even if that thing is not real, even if that thing didn't happen, you're being gaslit because other people have faulty memories too. God, the way Gabbie fights, it's so frustrating because like I'm making so many different points about so many different things that Gabbie Hanna does when she argues. And it shouldn't be this way. When you are arguing a point, you talk about the things that you did and the intent behind them. That's why initially the one apology that Gabbie made to us about that video where she left an article and a photo in a video, initially that was a good apology because she said she was sorry and this was her intent. I don't think Gabbie is ever going to give an apology about something where her intent was bad. I will say that much. But most of us don't have these years-long arguments that get so convoluted and needing a 3-hour phone call to try to work things out where you work nothing out. Because it should be as simple as, this thing happened, this was my intention, whether good or bad, I'm sorry. But instead, Gabbie Hanna gets caught up on wording, she gets caught up on technicalities and details that are ultimately going to absolve her, when the thing that the person is accusing her of is, for the most part, true. Or at the very least, the intention that people are trying to communicate they perceived out of Gabbie's actions was true. Gabbie is absolving herself of any of that by hanging up on technicalities and verbatim, semantics, straw man arguments. And thank you to the channel Just a Journalist. I know that you watch my videos. I really think you're cool. Taylor from Just a Journalist makes a really good point about whataboutisms and how that weakens your argument. And whataboutisms meaning, at least in this case, where Jessi and Gabbie are talking about this, Gabbie very much pulls a whataboutism about Alex James. Alex James was friends with Curtis Lepore. Alex James moved in with Curtis Lepore. What about Alex James? You're looking at me, but what about Alex James? Well, we're looking at you because this is about you. This is not about Alex James. I think Jessi has already proved to us why she is friends with Alex, and I understand it. I get it. And I think pretty much what Alex has done is all people wanted Gabbie to do. That's it. What about Alex, Gabbie? Look at what Alex has done. You do that. You're good. You're really good because you were good for a moment in 2015 when you initially apologized to Jessi. And that's all it takes for Jessi. Jessi is that forgiving of a person, is that all you have to do is say that you're sorry and sound like you mean it, and you're good. The problem is, and I wish that I had this pulled up in front of me. Somebody said to me in an email to my podcast email, I'm gonna do my best to do right by you, please, lovely viewer. This person made a point that I hadn't heard before and I hadn't thought of, and I thought it was brilliant. They said something along the lines of, Gabbie Hanna wants Jessi Smiles to clean up her image for her because Gabbie Hanna defended an R-wordist. She also apologized for defending that R-wordist in 2015. She was forgiven for the things that she said at that time. The problem is the public continued to remember the things that she did and said, and we remember her as an R-word apologist. And she needs Jessi to fully accept an apology that she's not giving. She wants Jessi to go back and say that these things are not true, that Gabbie isn't this thing that she demonstrably is, to scrub her image. And guess what? I love Jessi just as much as the next person. But even if Jessi forgives you, even if you give another one of your half-baked apologies and Jessi forgives you, I don't. And I don't think most of the internet would. I think most of the internet is fed the fuck up with you, Gabbie Hanna. So just stop. Leave Jessi alone. She's not going to be able to clean up your image for you. She's not. Even if you forget, even if you really made, you still owe it to Jessi to make your amends. But when you're done with that, you've got more work to do, girl. It's like with, I think with Gabbie Hanna, I've made this analogy before. It's like when you have a big pile of dishes in your sink and you just don't have the motivation to wash those dishes. And so that pile starts to get larger and larger. And the bigger that pile is, the less you have motivation to go wash them. And those dirty dishes is actually, I should have made a laundry analogy. because those dishes are Gabbie's dirty laundry. Oh my God, just don't mix metaphors. Don't pull a Gabbie Hanna.
Like every fucking day feels like I'm walking in a fucking landmine and like I just don't want to fucking step on anything.
And it's getting to be too much that it's, I think, too intimidating to tackle, trying to make amends for her wrongdoings. At least fucking admit it, Gabbie. Admit that you have too many things to apologize for. Admit that you are intimidated by how much bad you have to undo. Admit that maybe it's more than you can handle. At least admit that. I could imagine having a shred more compassion for Gabbie Hanna if she would just admit that she's got too many scandals and too many transgressions to make up for to do it. She also, before I forget this, going back to the whole note that Gabbie Hanna needs things to be verbatim, airtight on every technicality. Actually, I think she prefers things to be flawed in any way possible so that she can say that whatever you're saying about her is not true. Jessi says on the phone call something to the effect of, "Hey, Gabbie, I'm talking about the sentiment, not the verbiage." Jessi says something like, "I don't want this to be like you telling that person, I want war."
Just like you told that person, oh, I want war. This is not a war or a game for me.
I didn't tell that. That's so fucking funny. She told me she was...
I saw the screenshot.
Yeah,
girl.
that's not what I said. I said, okay, then I guess we have to fight this war or some shit like that. Oh my God, the fact that you're talking about right now is so fucking funny.
I saw the video, so don't get too excited about whether we talk shit about you or not.
And Gabbie laughs. Oh, it's so funny that you're talking to Leash. Is it though? Or do you hate it? Do you absolutely hate it? It's so funny you're talking to Leash. I didn't say I wanted war. I said something like, okay, then I guess we have to have this war. No, what you said was, and I can give you verbatim, what you said was, okay, let's have this war. When I can show around that message, I had said nothing about fighting. I had said nothing about war. I said that I was confused about something, and I said to clarify something. I said that I was upset by something. Nothing about war. You did that.
Oh my God.
And so I will make the argument that even though you didn't say I want war, you declared war. And by declaring war, you wanted war. Stop.
Get some help.
And going back to Curtis, because we're jumping all over the place, because that is how messy Gabbie Hanna is. She says that Jessi has made it her mission to align her, Gabbie Hanna, with Jessi's R-wordist, Curtis Lepore. You know whose mission that was, right? Like, you guys are not surprised by whose name I'm about to say. That was Gabbie Hanna's mission. Gabbie aligned herself with Curtis. Gabbie, I've said this a bunch of times, Gabbie had a fame boner for Curtis Lepore so hard. And yes, that is a pun I meant. That's the only pun you guys are getting out of me this year. Patrons, you're welcome. I'll only give you a pun if it's a sex pun. She has proved to us that she cares about numbers. She has proved to us she cares about image. She has proved to us that she is a social climber. And she's also told us, by the way, that brands want her to have as many young moldable minds as possible in her audience. She cares about this shit. She showed up at those parties where Curtis was. She took photos with Curtis. I don't believe that Curtis found you in a restaurant and took photos of you without your consent. And it just so happens to look like he's sitting in a booth right across the table from you and Zane. And what, you just like didn't know that he was there taking those photos of you? Because you claim to have told him to delete that other photo, the last one, where you very much look like you're in a photo with it. Because here's what I'm going to tell you. Somebody pointed this out to me. Perhaps somebody needs to point this out to you. We've seen one photo, right, of Gabbie Hanna with Curtis Lepore. And some people argue that there is more than one photo. There's definitely more than one photo. They might have happened on the same day. But in this photo, because Gabbie claims that there's only one photo that exists of her and Curtis, or there was only one time. It was when Curtis saw her at a convention, at VidCon, I think, but it was definitely at a convention or at an event, and said, "The Gabbie show, take a picture with me." And then she turned around, took that selfie, and then immediately told him to delete it, right? Somebody pointed out to me that that photo was not taken at an event. That photo was taken in front of a residential facility that is not 1600 Vine, which is the apartment complex that Gabbie has referenced, where a lot of Viners would go and have parties. And admittedly, Gabbie was at some of those same parties as Curtis Lepore. So allegedly, that is a residential facility that is not 1600 Vine, which means that she was at an event, a party, or whatever that was none of the things that she admitted to, and took pictures with Curtis Lepore, or a picture. At least this beautiful one that you see. Look at those faces. Don't they fill you with fiery hot rage? Sponsored by Flamin' Hot Cheetos. Just kidding. We're all about Skillshare over here, baby. And going back to what I was saying before, I think she so needed the approval of somebody who was once so approving of Jessi Smiles. She says that he almost blackmailed her, or is threatening to blackmail her by he's going to put out a recording of their FaceTime call, and he's going to doctor it. It's so funny how Gabbie knows what people are going to do. If it's ill-intentioned, she knows what you're going to do. And it's always outlandish shit. Just like she knew that Jessi was going to record herself and get emotional on that call to make content, to release these videos a year later. Just like she told me that I was going to make an exposed video about her, that I was going to tell people that she manipulated me into making a video in her favor, things that I never, ever said that I was going to do. She's claiming that Curtis is going to make it look like she was speaking in his favor. I don't believe that for a second. I believe that she called Curtis, or that she could have. Like Jessi told us, somebody spoke to Curtis, and Curtis told that person that actually Gabbie called him. And it's quite possible that he may be able to prove that with a recording. And now I'm thinking about how embarrassingly he is trying so hard to defend himself in the public. Why right now? I don't know. But Curtis, if you're gonna be out there doing whatever, can you just let us know? Prove it? I don't know. Maybe don't. Oh, and thank God I didn't forget. I'm going to talk about me for a second. Didn't Gabbie Hanna, in a recent video, I don't remember if she was talking about Trisha Paytas or drama channels or whoever her narcissistic abuser is for that chapter, but didn't she go through a list from some Googled article about these are the 5 behaviors of a narcissistic abuser? Number 3, the preemptive strike.
Okay, so I hadn't actually read this screen grab in its entirety, but in one of Gabbie's many videos about Trisha Paytas, she shares with us a list of the traits of a narcissistic abuser. And oh my God, is number 3 exactly what she did to me? So I'm going to read that for you. It says 3, preemptive strike. Whenever a narcissistic person feels threatened, they will call you the things that they themselves are as or are afraid that others see them as. And then they will try to stalk you, slander you, or discredit you. They will try to sabotage and destroy you. They will start a smear campaign and attempt character assassination. In their mind, frighteningly, you have become their mortal enemy. They also have no problem doing all of it preemptively and calling it defense. And so they will do all these things just because they think you are somehow trying to or might hurt them. They also will accuse you of the very things they themselves are doing. Oh my God. Okay. So let's remember that in the live stream where Gabbie preemptively ran home and read to her audience all of our text messages, put a pin in that too, she instructed her fans to go to my Twitter page and comment on my tweets just in defense. She has said several times she's just defending herself preemptively because I said I was going to expose her, which I never said I was going to do, which is what she's doing with this live stream. And remember that she gave her fans blessing to quote unquote defend me as you see fit. That's everything she put on the screen. It blows my mind, but at this point I've got to stop letting my mind be blown by Gabbie Hanna because who's surprised anymore?
By the way, if you guys are wondering why I'm doing this, I feel like I probably should have started with this. She's already tweeting that she's gonna like expose me. And that's why I'm doing this video. Sorry, I guess I should have clarified that, is because I'm done letting people spin false narratives. So I'm literally just gonna tell you and show you everything. It doesn't matter if you're having a one-on-one conversation with a human being, unless that human being shares the messages. And you didn't have to read my private messages with somebody out loud, which in of itself is so disrespectful. To read my private conversation out loud to the internet?
Are you seriously bringing that to me? You literally aired out my private conversations as if it was sport and then sent it to all the drama channels.
Because I don't want to go back and say, well, actually, here's where she lied, here's where she lied, here's where she lied, here's where she lied. I just want to show you like the story ahead of time.
And for those who can't read the screen right now, no surprise, but I never tweeted anything about how I was going to expose Gabbie. In the text messages, I say that I'm going to explain to my audience why I have flipped and flopped about Gabbie. I never said anything about exposing her. I never said anything about even making a video. And in my tweets that I made that day, I say, Gabbie Hanna exposed some private conversations and twisted my words out of context. She took to live to beat me to the punch. I won't engage in that. I will speak my piece when I feel calm. Thanks for everyone taking a moment to consider my side. Here's a synopsis of that convo. And I share a screenshot where I talk about kind of the issues that we had. Actually, I'll just go ahead and read it. It says, about my conversations with this friend. I understand Gabbie Hanna shared private conversations between our mutual friend and me in which I said she convinced me to make a video in her favor and that I was considering this until things started getting worse. I never insinuated that I was pressured. We got into an argument Monday night, I believe it was, and over the course of a couple of days, the conversation became friendly. She told me about the abuse she suffered at the hands of old quote-unquote friends, and I felt for her current situation and how some have poked fun at her mental state. I still do. I asked if she'd like me to make a video about how I disagree with the exploitation of a person's meltdown, and she said that would be lovely. Soon thereafter, I saw her continue to behave in ways online that I disagree with fundamentally. I was planning on telling you all what happened, but figured telling Gabbie would be the right thing to do. She said that this was war and that she was ready to fight. The other tweet that I made at the time said, I don't know what she's telling or showing you of my conversations with this friend, but here's the bulk of my conversation with him. All things I have been open about and was prepared to speak on if things didn't get better, and they didn't. And then I just shared some screenshots between me and who you know of as quote-unquote Jim. Again, nothing about exposing Gabbie, nothing about Gabbie manipulating me, nothing about anything that she's claimed, essentially.
That's exactly what Gabbie Hanna did to me when she uploaded those live streams, reading our text messages. Because she thought, like I said, she thought that I was going to make an exposed video about her. I was going to accuse her of manipulating me, so on and so forth. So she ran home from the gym to go do that live stream. That was a preemptive strike. She also says to Jessi that whatever these things with Richy, this whole asking him to make an exposed video on Jessi, was a preemptive measure. Number 3, signs of narcissistic abuse according to Gabbie Hanna. Don't give yourself an aneurysm for Gabbie Hanna. Don't give yourself an aneurysm for Gabbie. And that is me reaching my max. This is how angry I'm going to allow myself to get over Gabbie Hanna for tonight. So thank you to SKILLSHARE for sponsoring this video. My audience loves you. Check them out. Give it a click. That's all it takes to show me some love by showing them some love. You guys who click that link are the actual rock stars of this video. But to you, the one person who's still watching, who's not me, thank you so much for liking this video, for subscribing to this channel, for leaving a comment, or for clicking on that link. I love you, dude. And I'll talk to you guys in the next one. All right, thanks. Bye.